How does her perspective on the Civil War compare to the views that are found in other books?
Her perspective is first and foremost a personal one. She experienced the Civil War as it unfolded. Because of her husband, Henry Burton, he was a West Point educated lieutenant colonel, she was able to attend Senate hearings regarding the war. Henry Burton was called to Washington, D.C. before the war began, and during the duration of the war, she lived in Washington, D.C., New York, and even at one point she was in the South. She did write a letter during Lincoln's inauguration in which she says how worried she is that there will be a civil war and how she wishes it would not happen because, and she says, there would be much at stake, which meant her husband would have to serve. And this is the personal perspective that she offers. Serve he did, and just a year after the war ended, he died of malaria he had contracted in the war. So as a woman and a Mexican-American who also experienced the Mexican-American War, Ruiz de Burton was well aware of the complexities regarding political struggles and their effects on its citizens.
You're talking about the political side of her life and the personal side. And I think that Penguin Classics readers and listeners would be excited about the fact that this edition has an appendix. You've provided new translations of letters of Ruiz de Burton. What are some of the highlights revealed in these letters?
The letters help the reader become acquainted with Ruiz de Burton's life in the East Coast as well as the West. In the West, she had a lifelong friendship with Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo. He was a prominent California who was for many years a major presence in Northern California politics and society. He's best known as the founder of Sonoma. After Ruiz de Burton's husband died, her friendship with Vallejo became much more important because he was her connection to her West Coast ties. She writes many letters to him, and she writes to him about everything from land issues in California, concerning also political issues in California and the East Coast, also about literature. They're a fascinating look at her perspectives of both areas of the United States. I also included letters that she wrote to her New York lawyer, Samuel Latham Mitchell Barlow. Now, he helped promote her book, Who Would Have Thought It, and he also helped her with finances after her husband died. Both of these men played a vital role in her economic survival, and the letters include discussions with Barlow on how best to market her novel, which is interesting. Then we get a good perspective of marketing novels in the 19th century.
You've touched upon this a bit. What role does Ruiz de Burton play in California history?
As I mentioned, Ruiz de Burton was very close to Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo, the prominent Californian. She helped influence his decisions in California, and she was involved in mining and land issues there. She also wrote a play based on Miguel de Cervantes' Don Quixote, which makes parallels to the land issues in California. And after she writes and publishes Who Would Have Thought It, she goes on to write her second and last known novel, The Squatter and the Don, which focuses directly on 19th century California history and the California Land Commission. So when that book was published, she had a good readership, especially in California.
How is Ruiz de Burton groundbreaking for U.S. Latino literature?
Groundbreaking for sure, because here is the first Mexican-American woman offering her unique perspective as early as 1872.
Groundbreaking plus woman is she a feminist?
Well, first, as I always tell my students, a term like feminist is very complex and also very recent. There are many feminisms today. So what kind of feminist term can we apply to Ruiz de Burton? Well, we can get an idea in one of her letters to Mariano Guadalupe Vallejo, written on August 12, 1869, and I have this in the appendix, the full letter, but I'll only read this small snippet where she says, "Remember that I am a woman and Mexican with my soul enclosed in an iron cage. In this manner, society confines us as soon as we are born, like the Chinese and the feet of their women." Quite a quotation there. Ruiz de Burton, in this quotation, is aware of her standing as a woman in 19th century society, as well as her standing racially as a Mexican. She is certainly describing how she feels confined in this society. Does she hope for women's liberation from such confines, which is a tenet of feminism? And the letters and her novels point in that direction. So in that way, yes, I would say she is a feminist in that way.
Finally, she sounds like such a fascinating figure. In your opinion, what makes Who Would Have Thought It a Penguin classic?
Well, did you know that Penguin Classics is an entry on Wikipedia? I thought that was fabulous. And in the Wikipedia entry, it says that literary critics consider Penguin Classics as, quote, important members of the Western canon. I believe Ruiz de Burton's Who Would Have Thought It can certainly be read with many of these important members of the Western canon, and therefore she should be part of that membership. For example, a colleague of mine, Professor Ann Goldman, published a wonderful essay comparing Henry James's The Bostonians, which is a Penguin classic, with Ruiz de Burton's Who Would Have Thought It. So her work stands beautifully alongside such Penguin classics as The Grapes of Wrath, and so readers are really lucky to have her added to the Penguin Classics list.
I look forward to having the book available for all our Penguin Classics readers and listeners. So thanks for talking with us.
Thank you so much.